When your child comes to you with something, whether it's big or small, don't dismiss it. Don't place judgment, don't place shame. Because if a child has something big for them, even if it's really small to you, and you hold space and you listen, they're going to go, okay, this is a safe adult that I can take stuff to.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together. Let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome back. You're here with Holly, and I am so excited for you to listen to this episode. This is such an important episode around teaching children body autonomy, body safety, and really how to navigate uncomfortable conversations around sex and touch with your children to prevent sexual abuse. And this is just such an important conversation because sexual abuse, pedophilia, all of that is so incredibly prevalent and it's very uncomfortable to talk about. But we cannot avoid these things anymore because the more we are naive, the more out of sight, out of mind, the more that it's going to be perpetuated in our society. So it's like we need to have these conversations with the children at such a young age. And even for me, I'm not a mom yet, but I know I'm going to be in the future. And this conversation just taught me so much about how to navigate these conversations with my children around like learning how to teach them how to have body autonomy, how to have ownership over their body, how to help them communicate. And yeah, so if you're not a mom or a parent yet and you're a future mama bear or papa bear, this is a beautiful episode to listen to. If you're a mom, dad, grandparent, aunt, uncle around children at all, this is such an important conversation. So I just really believe that we are here to break these cycles of sexual abuse. Like it's just so prevalent. And she talks about, Victoria is who I have the conversation with, such a beautiful soul, which I'm going to tell you more about her in a second. But like she's in New Zealand and she talks about the statistics in New Zealand of sexual abuse and sexual assault. So you hear a bit about that, but it is just so prevalent in our world today. And globally, the statistics are it's estimated that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 7 boys experience some form of sexual violence before the age of 18, which is just unacceptable. Like it's unacceptable. And we really need this to change. And it changes with conversation. It changes with moving through the discomfort and having conversations and making them normalized to talk about sex and body parts and all of it. And she talks about too how most of the time it's not, how we think of like stranger danger, like, oh, let me keep my kids away from strangers. Like, no, it's typically happening to someone that your child knows. And so we need to really teach the children about body autonomy before it's too late, before the abuse starts happening. And it can be really uncomfortable. And we talk about moving through the uncomfortable because you would more likely want to have that conversation, even though it's uncomfortable, than wait until it's too late. So I just really encourage you, if you are around children at all, if you are a future parent, if you are a parent, this episode is for you. There's so much wisdom in here. So before we dive into it, I'll give you a little background on Victoria. So I'm sitting down with Victoria Barendsen. She is a registered psychologist specializing in trauma and a mom of 2, walking this journey right alongside the parents she supports. For the past 8 years, she has worked in private practice supporting families through the most tender, challenging parts of parenting. But what she is most passionate about is prevention, helping parents raise safe, empowered children through everyday moments. She supports families to naturally and confidently weave body safety education into daily life, making it a trusted part of growing up, not a scary or awkward one-off talk. She believes the most powerful prevention starts early through simple conversations, consistent language, and connection. Through her course, Foundations of Body Safety, and a range of free tools, she helps parents move from uncertainty to calm clarity so they can feel confident protecting their children and proud of the connection they're building along the way. And I'm just so grateful for this conversation. Victoria is such a beautiful soul with so much wisdom, so passionate about this work. I see her devotion and I'm just so incredibly grateful for her. Like, we need this education is so, so, so needed. So, with that, let's just dive straight into it so you can really learn from Victoria and all the nuggets she has to share with you. So, with that, let's dive into it. Hello, Victoria. I'm so excited to chat with you today. How are you?
Hello, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to have this chat.
Yes, me too. Well, yeah, I know you have such a deep devotion to empowering parents with the confidence and tools that they need to really educate their children about body safety, which I'm so grateful for. I always like have been saying like we need to protect the children and we need to like really have these kind of difficult conversations. So I'm so grateful for the work that you do. But to start off, I feel like maybe diving into what exactly does body safety entail and why is it so important for parents and caretakers to understand, communicate, and practice this like in their everyday lives with their children?
Yeah, such a great question. So, in my work, I work with and have worked for a long time with children who have experienced sexual abuse in some capacity. So, I support them and their families through that. And it kind of got to a point in my career where I thought, I feel just so much like I'm this ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. We really need to change. We need to do something. And I just had this drive of, instead of just wanting this sort of preventative world, like having to go out and create it, which was incredibly daunting, but here we are. And so body safety really falls into the prevention of sexual abuse. And body safety, the concept of it is really teaching your child how to take care of their body and that their body belongs to them. So, just like we might teach a child water safety when they're around a pool or the ocean, we teach them how to swim or stay away from the water, or how we teach children hygiene, like how to brush their teeth and wash their hands. We also need to teach them how to keep their body safe. And so that has been my journey for a little while now, is that how do we get parents to caregivers, people in our children's lives, to really take on board and I guess shift the kind of narrative that we have around a child's body now, that we don't just hug a child when we want to hug them, or if we're tickling a child, we don't just keep tickling if they say stop. We're actually starting to like pause and allow a child to listen to their body and communicate that with us and start to respect it from a really young age, because when a child knows their body belongs to them from a really young age, that will continue throughout their whole life. And so we have an opportunity with young children to teach them that actually they get to make choices that feel right for them. So that's what body safety is.
Yeah. Oh, it's just so important. It's so important. And I love, yeah, it's like what you said, like we have to create that world. Like you had to go out and create that world. Cause unfortunately, like there's so much sexual abuse and like there's so much generational trauma too, where it's like so much sexual abuse is being perpetuated from people that have also been abused because they didn't get the support that they needed. So it's like these conversations are just so incredibly needed. And it feels like it needs to start at such a young age.
Yes.
And so, but it's like, I feel like it can be really uncomfortable to navigate because I feel like our parents weren't having these conversations because there wasn't that awareness, there wasn't that knowledge and communication. And like, we're just really, I feel like, learning how prevalent this is and how we need to have these conversations. Like, I just feel like pedophilia is so prevalent right now, sexual abuse, like all of it. And I just, yeah, it's just hard to navigate, I feel like, these conversations. So I think like,
Yes.
teaching parents or caregivers how to have these uncomfortable conversations, how to navigate these conversations is really important. So, yeah, I guess like what are some simple age appropriate ways to talk to kids about consent and like their private parts and body boundaries? And also like what age do you recommend starting these conversations?
Yeah, I feel like you said lots of really good parts to that. So I'll firstly touch on like the prevalence. I'm from New Zealand, and here in New Zealand, which people would consider a very safe country, our statistics at the moment are 1 in 3 women and 1 in 3 girls before the age of 18, and 1 in 6 boys before the age of 18 will experience some form of sexual abuse. And I think those statistics are pretty generalized across the world. So when we think about, oh, it won't happen to us, and I hear this all the time with parents that I'm working with, like, I just didn't think it would happen in our family, or it wouldn't happen in our community. Actually, if we live in that naivety, we allow, like you say, that generational stuff to continue, and we don't take responsibility for change, and burying our head in the sand is not going to make the danger go away for our children. And one of the key things in New Zealand statistics and is sort of worldwide is that 90% of the people that are abusing a child are known to the child. So that's people like family or friends or coaches or teachers. So we have to shift the conversation from like stranger danger, or I'm keeping my kids safe because I don't let them be alone out at night or whatever. Actually, that's not enough. Like, the people that are hurting our children are people that they love and care about a lot of the time. And unfortunately, and I think this frightens a lot of people, is a lot of the harm's also coming from other young people. So we can sort of have this mindset that, yeah, it's like a strange pedophile in a van, but actually a lot of it might be like one of their best friends or their best friend's parents. And so the idea of safety becomes quite frightening, because you think, okay, where can I trust? Who can I trust? And, in the education I do, I will never say that what I support you through will 100% prevent sexual abuse. However, we can equip our children with the tools in order to keep themselves relatively safe. So in terms of how early to start, the earlier the better. Like, I'm talking as soon as your child can comprehend their body belongs to them, start the conversation. So I have a 1-year-old and an almost 4-year-old, and I have been doing this their whole life. So with my daughter, she knows from a very young age that her body belongs to her, and she feels incredibly confident and empowered to tell people that. So some of the stuff that I've done with my kids since they were early, and which I recommend with clients and talk about a lot on my platform, is number one is anatomically correct labels. So this is calling a vulva, not a fanny or whatever nickname you have, or calling a penis. And even listening to this, you might feel the discomfort, like, oh, that doesn't really feel right for me. And the chances are also, as you said, Holly, is that actually we didn't get that growing up. Like, that wasn't the conversation. And so we are having to relearn and like teach our children a word that we got taught is not comfortable. And there's a lot of like self-reflection as a parent that goes into that. It's like, okay, why do I feel discomfort with this word? What is like holding me back, or what is the barrier from telling my child a part of their body, like the name of their body? And I often say, you call an elbow, so why do you not call a penis? Like, it just doesn't make sense. But one of the main reasons is that we teach anatomically correct labels is that it removes any shame or stigma about that part of their body. So if you have a nickname for a part of a body, it almost tells a child, like, don't talk about it. We can't use the correct term, so we're not going to even go there. We're going to use a different name. So therefore, is that a part of my body I can't talk about? Is that a part of my body I should be ashamed about? And then on a more serious level, I've worked with children and young people who, when being interviewed for their abuse, have used nicknames, and therefore the whole court process and the legal aspect has been closed down because the child doesn't have the correct terminology. So from a prevention standpoint as well, using the correct labels, people who have like charged offenders, pedophiles, have been interviewed in the past, and they will come out and say that if a child knows the correct terms for their body, that is a huge deterrent, because that tells them that those are conversations that are happening at home, that this child knows their body better than other children. And so that can often deter that type of behavior as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so interesting because I think that just raises such a good point because, like, it almost feels uncomfortable saying like penis and vagina, but it's like that's the parts of the body. Like, I think we as parents and caretakers and all of that, it's like really need to do the work to release that discomfort too.
Mm-hmm.
Cause the only way you have to sit in the discomfort and get curious about where that's coming from too. There's so much growth that can be had in like sitting in the discomfort, getting curious about it. So, like, yeah, that's just such a good nugget for parents and caretakers to know because that's yeah, I feel like there can just be so much discomfort. And I also feel like there's never like a right time to start talking about it. I know for some parent, like, I know it's like, okay, I'm just going to wait for the opportunity. Like the opportunity will come and then like I'll feel comfortable to have these conversations. But I feel like there's never going to be like it's on a silver platter. It's like you have to make that initiation for the conversations to start having or to start having those conversations. So even the fact that you're having it with your 1 year old right now, like
Yeah.
that's huge. Like it can start as young as that, like
Yes.
just that body autonomy, teaching them about their bodies. Like it needs to start and there's no right way to start talking about it.
No.
It's just like starting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think like the earlier the better as well. So
Mm-hmm.
my daughter has no awareness that there are even nicknames for the body. And
Mm-hmm.
so, she was talking about somebody else used a nickname, and she said to me, "Mummy, what's a willy? I don't know what that is." And
Mm-hmm.
for her, it's just like that's a penis. Like she doesn't understand. And so if we can implement these really early, then our child grows up in a world where they're normal and they're not uncomfortable words. I have a bit of a funny story. We went camping with my dad, so my daughter's granddad, and they went out on a walk and they were down by a big lake. And my daughter said to him, she was 2 at the time. She
Yeah.
said, "Oh, granddad, is there sharks in there?" And he said, "No, darling, there's no sharks in there, but if there was, they might bite your bottom." And she was like, "Oh, don't you mean my vulva?" And my dad, who always used nicknames in my childhood, was like, "Oh, don't you mean your front bum?" And she's like, "No, granddad, that is called a vulva." And then this
Yeah.
kind of conversation unfolded between them. And my dad came back to the campsite and was like, "Oh, we've just been talking about vulvas," which did present a really natural like conversation for him and I to have with her. But for her, just so confidently and so comfortably to be like, "That's my body. Like that's what it is. It doesn't need to be shamed or hidden." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much power in that. And I think that's so beautiful. And I feel like that's how things are going to normalize.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it wasn't normalized for like the older generation. So it's like it starts with this generation of these children coming in. Like, we've got to normalize these conversations because even just like body parts, sex in general, like it's become so taboo, so dirty, so gross, so much guilt and shame associated to it. And it's like, this is so dangerous. Like, we have to shift the conversation. We have to get comfortable having these uncomfortable conversations and making them just a part of like regular daily life,
Yeah. And I think for
Yeah.
any of your listeners, like something I do with clients is I suggest to journal on it. Like I suggest to ask yourself the questions, how was I taught about my body growing up? Or what were the conversations my parents had with me about keeping my body safe? What words did they use? And how does that impact your relationship with your body? How does that impact the relationship with if you have children or young people in your world, or you're thinking about having children? How does that impact that? And taking time to sit with the discomfort and explore it. Like, why
Mhm.
is this here for me? And does this belief I currently have to be a belief I always have? Or can I change it to meet the next generation and provide them what you missed out on as a child?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the part too where a lot of like self compassion and non judgment comes in because it's like you don't know what you weren't taught. So it's kind of just like holding compassion, not being hard on yourself. But it's like we've got to got to get curious about that, and how can, yeah, like moving through that discomfort from such a place of compassion and understanding for yourself. So it can just be like, and it's probably going to be uncomfortable even when you start having these conversations with your kids, and like giving yourself grace with that as well. Cause it's like, you weren't taught how to do this. None of us were really taught how to do this. So like, we're learning as we go. But I think the more that we move through the discomfort and just try to have those conversations, yeah, like the more progress we're going to make. Because
Yeah.
do you have any recommendations for parents that like want to start having those conversations, like normalizing body parts, but like discomfort comes up? Like, how can they move through that during the actual conversation with the children?
Yeah. So one of the things I like to, well, I guess it's like a sort of statement or quote that parents can ponder and think about. And it helps me in my situation as well, because, I'm a psychologist, I specialize in this area, and I don't always get it right. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's having like kindness and grace with yourself that this is a process and it's something so new to you. So, being kind, like you say, throughout the
Mhm.
process is so, so important. And knowing that there's no sort of right or wrong way of doing this. If you keep showing up, maybe it's not perfect, but you're showing up for your child in this way, that's the best that you can be doing. And
Mhm.
in terms of parents who feel the discomfort rising, what I will say to that with love and kindness is that the discomfort you feel having that conversation is nothing compared to the discomfort of something happening to your child, because
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
support those parents who left the conversations out and now on the other end of supporting their child who has experienced the abuse. And I can guarantee what their experience is so much more uncomfortable than just having the conversations. But the
Yeah.
way that we can do it is we can think about some of the like thoughts that come through our mind. So it might be, if I say this, I'm going to say the wrong thing. And that might be the mindset that you have. But actually, you can capture that thought and you can think, okay, I can slightly shift this. It could be, I'm trying my best. Like, I'm going to give this
Mhm.
my best shot. Even if this feels
Mhm.
a little bit uncomfortable and unsure and I feel overwhelmed, I'm going to try my best. So, really noticing the thoughts that pop up for you around the conversation and just noticing, can you shift it slightly? Like, shifting that mindset can be really helpful. But there's also lots of tools that you can use with your children. If you're like, where do I start? How do I make this comfortable? So, one of my number one things that I say is children's books. They are so good for this. And there are some incredible body safety books out there at the moment for children. I can send you the link if you want to put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, these are a really powerful way to start conversations. You can start them young. The books talk about consent in a really age appropriate, friendly, fun way. And it just allows a message to be repeated to a child as well. So, a really good thing with body safety to remember is it's not a one time conversation, it's a way of
Mhm.
living. And I'm really passionate about making it a natural and normal part of a child's development. And reading stories about it is a really good way to do that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And yeah, oh, I had full body chills as you were saying that the discomfort of finding that out, like not having those conversations to avoid the discomfort, like leads and
Mm.
finding out that happened to your child, like that, having to deal with that on the other end, like that's just, yeah, it's like you just don't want to wait until it's too late. You'd rather move through the discomfort and try your best than wait until something happens and like be naive and just act like, oh, this has happens to other people. This isn't going to happen to my kids. It's like, no, this is so prevalent. Like this is so prevalent. So I think that, yeah, just giving yourself grace and being human. And I think there's something really beautiful about like also your kids seeing that you're trying and also like letting them know like mommy and daddy are trying to figure this out as well. We're doing the best we can, like showing them that you're human too. Like you don't have to be perfect. It's okay it's giving them also an example of like, oh, I can mess up and I can misspeak, but then I can correct myself and like learn together, be a good example of like learning as you go too, I feel. So,
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
like another big thing that I try and talk to parents about is that modeling with your children is the most powerful way to teach them body safety. It's not
Mm.
sitting down and saying, okay, darling, remember your vulva belongs only to you. I mean, those conversations really great to have, but it's actually the stuff like when my daughter hops out of the shower, I will say, would you like to dry your vulva or would you like mum to? I'm teaching
Mhm.
her in that moment. She gets to make a choice for her body. Or I might say to her, can I have a hug this morning? And she'll say yes or no. I'm modeling to her consent. So it's that
Mhm.
whole idea, like, how are we showing up as parents that children can see and be like, oh, actually, it's normal to ask before you touch somebody's body. Or
Mhm.
I might be playing tickling and she might say stop. And as soon as she stops, I stop. I'm respecting her body. So much of what we talk to our children about can actually be modeled to them as well in a way that they probably learn and absorb more.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's something too that's coming to mind as the adult. Like if your child or if it's like, if you're an aunt and this is like your niece or nephew, or if you're a grandma and you ask like, can I hug you? And they say no, it's like not letting that take offense to you. I think so often it's like, oh, like taking offense and making them feel bad for saying
Mhm.
no. It's like, no, you're allowed to have your own boundaries. If you don't want to have a hug right now, that's okay. I know I'm good. I'm going to respect you. Cause I think like, yeah, so often we can take things personally when kids say no, but it's like that's something for you to work through. That's not anything to do with the child, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that it's not our child's responsibility to help us feel a certain way. And I feel
Yes.
this one because my daughter, I will always ask before a hug. And so recently she's been like, no. And I said, okay. And then she'll go and give her dad a hug. And I'm like, oh. And there's
Oh
been
no.
all of this kind of stuff inside, like, oh, do they have a stronger attachment? Is their connection better? Am I not doing enough? In motherhood, often there's all of those thoughts and that guilt, and like the motherhood, am I doing enough came up for me. And I thought, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, like, she doesn't want to hug me, but she wants to hug her dad. And I sat in that
Right.
discomfort for a while. Of course, I didn't say anything to her. And then I was reflecting on it and I thought, this is a healthy attachment. This is a strong attachment and connection. My daughter felt safe to listen to her body and then communicate that to me, knowing that she wasn't going to get in trouble. She wasn't going to be shamed. Actually, whatever she felt in her body was safe to express and she was held in that. And so I was like, actually, when they say no, that's beautiful. They're telling you they feel safe enough to tell you no. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I think so often too, like I don't have kids yet, but I feel like so often too, our kids are trying to teach us. Like our children have so much to teach us, and even if that comes up, it's like that child may unconsciously be trying to teach you to like sit with yourself and validate yourself and love yourself and know that you're doing enough and you're doing the best you
Yes.
can. And like they're trying to
Yeah.
teach you to come more home to yourself and have that self compassion.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
that's such a beautiful example. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
No,
Yeah.
my children have been my greatest teachers in every aspect of life. I started working in this prevention space when I was pregnant with my daughter. I didn't know it was a
Mhm.
girl at the time until she was born, but I had this client who had worked with her a really long time, and he had experienced abuse when he was younger, and then he went on to abuse his younger siblings. And we
Mhm.
were sitting there and we were having these conversations, and this work was not unfamiliar to me. Like a lot of the work that I used to do was actually supporting children who had harmed other children. But we sat there and he was telling me about what he had intended to do with this young girl that he'd met online, and I was quite heavily pregnant at the time, and my whole like body just was like froze. I felt sick, and I thought, oh my goodness, like this could be my daughter, this could be my
Mhm.
child, like, you could hurt somebody I love. And so from being a mum, it really shifted so much of my life from just providing support, not just, but providing support to young people who had gone through abuse, into let's change, like let's do this differently. So even before my daughter was born, she was teaching me, it's like this
Yeah.
journey forever, and teaching me
Mhm.
so much about myself. Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
wild ride.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's beautiful. And you said too, so most often too, it's like children perpetuating sexual abuse to other children. Have you found that that's because that child that's perpetuating the abuse has also been abused and they're just doing that?
There is a small, like the percentages in New Zealand with research is around 40% of children that harm another child have experienced sexual abuse. But actually, the highest statistic, I think it's 50 or 60%, I can't quite remember, but have experienced domestic violence in the home. So, what we see a lot of the time is children that live in a chaotic living environment or a really unsafe living environment, they tend to use inappropriate sexual behavior or harmful sexual behavior with other children more so than other children who haven't experienced that.
Mhm.
So that's sort of research based. In my private practice, and what I have noticed is that a lot of the children just lack a sense of connection. And so they've often used sexual behavior as a form of connection, and maybe it started really innocently with a hug or something like that, and then it kind of eventuated into something more. But these children really do lack connection and support and don't have tools to find that connection. And I
Mhm.
support a lot of professionals or school staff that are working in this space as well. And one of the key things I say to them, because it's really uncomfortable to think about and talk about, is
Mhm.
that that child, any form of behavior is a form of communication. And so a child might hit or spit or something like that, and they're communicating in a way that they can. So they don't have the tools to be able to say, I don't feel safe that you're in my bubble right now, so I'm going to hit you so you move away. And it's very similar in sexual abuse in young children, is that, or sexual harm, is that they are trying to communicate something through their behavior. Yes, it's not okay, and yes, it's not right. But if we remember it's a form of communication, it helps a little bit with how we support and we work with them.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's so important. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of want to dive into like what kind of relationship or dialogue do we need to create so our kids actually feel safe coming to us if something inappropriate ever happens to them? Like if they are sexually abused, if someone did touch them, like yeah, what are the kind of conversations we need to be having prior so they feel safe enough to share that?
Yeah, great question. So, one of my number one things is emotional literacy. We need a child to understand an emotion within themselves in order for them to communicate that to us. And so, one of the biggest ways that I support parents to implement emotional literacy in the home is to start modeling it. So, it might be, oh, mum is feeling really frustrated this morning. I can't get everything done before we need to get out the door. So, I'm saying I'm frustrated. I'm not blaming the child. I'm just saying that I'm feeling frustrated right now. I'm validating it's okay to feel frustrated. I've got lots to do before I get out the door. And then I might problem solve something like, oh, I'm just going to take 3 deep breaths and put my hand on my heart, and then I'll help you put your shoes on and we'll head out the door. So what we want to show children is feeling emotions is really important, whatever that emotion is. I see it way too much in my office, is that children don't want to feel angry and they don't want to feel sad, and they push it away and push it away until we start seeing their behavior as a way of communicating that. And so what we want to normalize in our homes is that actually it's okay to be angry.
Mhm.
Do it in a safe way, express it in a safe way. Because if a child can start to express their emotions, they're going to feel more comfortable and confident to talk to you about issues that are happening.
Mhm.
Another really key part of this is when your child comes to you with something, whether it's big or small, don't dismiss it. Don't place judgment. Don't place shame. And I know this is not always easy. So, again, with love and kindness, try your best.
Mhm.
Because if a child has something big for them, even if it's really small to you, like maybe they got left out in a game at school, you're like, oh gosh, like I've got to get the dinner on. Like this is really irrelevant. Like pause. Can you give 30 seconds of your time to them to listen and really hear what they're having to say? Because if they are experiencing all these little small things, or maybe they're small to you and big to them, and you hold space and you listen, they're going to go, okay, this is a safe adult that I can take stuff to. I can rely on them. They're going to listen. They're going to hold space for me. So yeah, creating spaces for children to talk is based on how it looks when things are low level will increase the chance of them talking to you when it's something more important. And you can say statements like, Mum is always here if you need to talk, or there's nothing that you can say to me that will make me love you any less, or, if there's anything going wrong, you can always come to me, or you might list some other safe adults that child has in their life. But yeah, a lot of it for a child, we can say it, but they need to see it in action. So those previous examples where they come to you, holding the space in those times can be really, really powerful.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because I became an embodiment coach because it's all about like learning how to feel your emotions because I feel like so many of us weren't taught how to feel our emotions. It's like shameful to feel angry. It's a weakness to cry, like go to your room, like kind of like, our parents generations prior, like they did the best they could with the tools that they had, like wasn't aware that they needed to like hold space for emotions. But I think now so many of us are learning like, no, it's we're human. We are meant to experience emotions. Like we're not all supposed to be happy all of the time. Like that's fake. That's not real. There's
Yeah.
so much internal struggle. And it's like adults need to learn how to feel their emotions because so many of us have masks and just totally don't allow ourselves to feel any emotion. But I think it's like allowing your child space to like feel their full range of emotion and holding that safe container and not allowing them to feel shame of like if they're crying and upset, not just like pushing them to the corner to like go deal with their emotions, like sitting with them and like, what's coming up for you? Like seeing them. All kids want to be seen, want to be heard, want to be validated. So I feel like that's such a big rewiring that is happening, I feel, in these next generations of like learning the importance of feeling your emotions, like holding space for your children. Cause yeah, I can imagine that would make them feel safe to come to you with everything. If you're not shaming them for feeling emotions or like being upset, you're actually eye to eye hearing them with your eyes, with your ears, like that would make them feel safe coming to you in other situations and like knowing that they're loved regardless of like if they're crying or if they're angry or if they're whatever it may be. It's like that unconditional love, that safe container. So yeah, I think that takes a lot of attention to intention and attention
Yeah.
to create that space.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah.
feel that as well, and we don't always get it right. Like, and I know
Mhm.
that for myself as well. But I try as much as I possibly have capacity for to do that, to hold that space. In my daughter's room, we down at her eye level, we have a poster with a whole range of emotions, and I find it's like our easiest go to is if she's feeling escalated or out of sorts, we go down to her room together. It's not alone, it's together. And I sit there, and often she'll be yelling and screaming and not want me. And it might be like, go away, mummy. And it's like, I'm just going to sit here with you, darling. Like, when you're ready, I'm here. And then eventually she'll come and point to what emotion she's feeling because she can't articulate that all the time. But yeah, it's this safe space to be, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and it's okay. My mum's still here. She loves me. She'll cuddle me. She'll hug me, but she's here. And so
Mhm.
that, I think, builds like a real sense of trust, like a deep trust that
Mhm.
this person has got me, like ride or die. Like, they really don't care what I'm showing up with. This person's got
Mhm.
me. And yeah, huge generational shift type stuff, because yeah, we were sent to
Yeah.
our rooms, and yes, our parents didn't have the tools and they didn't understand, but we can do it differently. And
Right.
to be able to feel an emotion and express an emotion in a way that you feel comfortable, like that's such a gift, and one of the
Yeah.
big analogies I use with my clients with their emotions is, as I say, it's just like the weather. You might have favorite weather, like a sunny, beautiful day, and then you might really dislike rain. And your emotions are really similar to this. It's like you have your favorite emotions like joy and excitement, and you have those emotions you don't really like, but it doesn't mean your emotions are bad or good. Just like the weather
Mhm.
sort of comes and goes, like it just does what weather should do. And your
Mhm.
emotions are just doing what emotions are doing. They need to pop up and they need to be there, and we need to acknowledge them, because if we
Mhm.
push them down, the more we fight them, the deeper we sink into them. So yeah.
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 I love that. Yeah. I like to say too, they come and go in waves. Like
Yeah.
it's just riding the wave as
Yeah.
they come in. They want to be felt. They just want to come. They want to go. But so many of us stuff them down and it just,
Mm.
yeah, it creates so much dis-ease in the body.
Mm.
This episode is brought to you by The Beehive. Holly and I created this online space with such deep intention because we know how lonely and isolating the healing journey can be. And what we've truly come to know is the importance of a safe community that understands you. We've both experienced the power of being witnessed, held, and supported, and that's where true healing happens. The Beehive is a grounded, heart-led space rooted in connection, reflection, growth, authenticity, and self-love. It's a community built on grounded spirituality, not bypassing, but coming home to yourself through your body, your truth, and your lived experience. While we honor the magic of the mystical, we also know the importance of staying rooted. Inside, you'll find real tools, embodiment practices, and a community of like-minded people who get it. It's a safe space where all are welcome, where your wisdom, your struggles, and your growth are honored. If you've been craving a down-to-earth space to heal, grow, and feel supported, we'd love to welcome you into the Hive. Only $22 USD a month. Link in the show notes to join. We hope to see you there.
And I think too, something that's coming to mind is I feel like so many of us and like the past generations were like out of sight, out of mind. Like you go deal with it kind of like on your own, or like, okay, I'm feeling like really like I'm feeling uncomfortable or I'm feeling emotion. So I'm just going to go to my room and be alone with this. Cause like that's when I feel safe. And I feel like that too is like if something happened, if there was sexual abuse, sexual assault, it's like if you don't even feel safe like expressing your emotions with your parents and you have to go in your room and internalize it alone, what is that saying if something actually happens to you? Like that pattern of, okay, I'm going to go to my room and just deal with this on my own.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
show up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that a lot in my sessions with clients, that I might work with somebody and the abuse happened 5 years ago and it's only come out because something has sort of all of a sudden bubbled to the top, that actually they can't manage it anymore and they really internalized it. And like you say, they learnt to manage emotions on their own from a young age. And so when something like this happens, their internal belief is, I've just got to manage this on my own. And we know that doesn't work. And we know with trauma, it's the support around us that helps move through that. So I've definitely seen that pop up a lot. And the other thing I've seen pop up quite a bit is that children don't actually know that what they experienced with the abuse was wrong because the parents haven't had a conversation. So children don't understand that somebody shouldn't touch their body, or that it's not normal for somebody to spend all this time and money and things on you, because they don't understand grooming. They don't understand their body belongs to them. They don't understand abuse. I had one young person who saw something on TV. We have like not a reality TV, but like a soapy kind of TV here. And she was watching it with her mum, and there was something about abuse in a very subtle way. And she said, "Oh, is it not normal for granddad to do that?" And that was it. Like that, and that just shattered her mum's whole world, as you can imagine, to be like, you didn't even know what for years was happening to you was wrong. So it's a really tricky space.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it just, oh, that's so awful. I just feel like, yeah, it's like those conversations so young of like, yeah, like your body is yours and no one is allowed to touch you without your
Mm.
permission.
Mm.
Like, yeah, I guess real quick, what are the words that you would use when you're describing that to your child around like body boundaries? I know we touched on that a bit, but like for
Yeah.
parents that are really wanting to start that conversation, is it mainly like your body is yours and like no one is allowed to touch that without
Yes.
you giving them consent?
Yes, yeah. So you would, if you want to use like direct language, it is things like that. It's like your body belongs to you. You get to decide what happens to it. Or if my daughter's hopping out of the shower and I would say to her, "Oh, would you like to dry your body, or would you like mum to?" And she might say, "Oh, you can today, mum." And then I might say something like, "Oh, remember, it's always your choice. choice around your body. So you can find those little moments in the day where anything relating to their body, just notice if you can slip in a little statement. So it might be my daughter deciding what to wear for kindy that day. I say, what would you like to wear? What feels comfortable for your body? What is your body telling you feels right? Remember, you
Mm-hmm.
always get to listen to your body. Nobody can tell you what to do with your body. I find like when I did toilet training with her, that was a really good body safety time because she was learning to go to the toilet. And I'll say, what is your body saying? Like, is your body telling you need to go to the toilet? So starting to like encourage listening to the body as much as possible. Yeah. And then statements like, your vulva belongs to you. Nobody is allowed to touch your vulva. That type
Mm-hmm.
of stuff can also, be really helpful.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm curious. So, if a child does disclose abuse, or if they come to you and are like, "Oh, that neighbor touched me," or some like just came through like in an innocent kind of way, like how should a parent respond in that moment? Like, what do children need most in those situations? I guess if they come to you either innocently saying like, "Oh, someone touched me," and they don't think much of it, but like you can tell something happened, or if they outright said someone touched them and it made them feel uncomfortable. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, what do children need in that moment?
They need you to believe them. Like that's
Mm,
the bottom line of all of this is believe what your child is saying, and stay, which is very, very hard to do, stay calm, which I know would probably be a completely unnatural response to it. But if you can stay really calm and natural with your child, that will help them feel safe to keep the conversation going. And with that, you just want to ask some open ended questions like, and you would start with, hey, darling, thank you so much for sharing this with me. I'm a safe place. And for you to come and talk to me, I feel really, really grateful you're here and we're having this conversation. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And
mhm,
then they might tell you a bit more. Okay, so then what happened? So really keeping it open. We don't want to provide suggestive conversations either. Did they do this? Did they do that? It's more like, okay, then what happened? Can you tell me more about that? Or how did you feel in that moment? Being very curious without guiding the conversation, I would say. And then this depends across the world. Everybody has different services and supports that are available, but there is always the police to report these types of things too. In New Zealand, and I think most places, you have child services as well, and they typically will sort of take it from there and do the interviewing and what needs to be done in order to sort of verify what went on. But it's not your role as a parent to verify if something actually happened or not. It's your role to hold the space so that they feel safe and seen and as though they can share what has happened. Arguably, as a parent, it will be a very difficult thing to hear and to process and to work through. So make sure you reach out for support as well, because yeah, it's a really tough thing to hear about or from your child.
mhm. Yeah, and I just think that's so important what you said to like believe your child, because I cannot imagine, bringing that forward and then being like, "Oh no, that didn't happen." Like especially I feel like if this is happening within your family, maybe like a grandpa touched your child and that's your dad. If you're the mom, like that was your dad that touched your child, like not wanting to believe something like that could ever happen. So like not believing the child and then still just like letting them all hang out together. It's just that belief I feel like is so so necessary. And I feel like if it did happen within a family, what would you say would be like the best action for that to take if you're not wanting to go like the legal route? Because again, like I have so many clients and so many people within my healing circles, like sexual abuse is so prevalent, specifically within families, with uncles,
Mm.
with grandparents, with all of it. And it's like, if it's someone within your family, how do you navigate that without, yeah, I guess, wanting to go down the route of getting the police involved?
Yeah, I definitely see this as well with a lot of the young people that I work with. Depending on a child's age, I almost let them guide what they would like to do. So I'm talking like teenage years. If a child is like, Because what you might find is some children are like, I do not want you to go to the police. Like, I'm comfortable talking to you about this, but I can't let it go any further. As long as that child accesses support for the trauma, then that's a real positive. I would say that I'm pretty firm on if a child discloses that information that they access support to heal and grow and work through what happened. The outcome of how it gets managed on a legal aspect, it really does vary. Like you say, in New Zealand, we have really shocking statistics that 1% of sexual abuse that goes to court will be charged. So we have to be really mindful that if we put a young person through the legal system, are we causing more trauma for them? Are we causing more difficulty? But we also want to ensure that that person can't go on to harm another person. So
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to somebody within the family, we have to be really mindful of that, is that yes, maybe we want to protect our child and potentially protect in some way the person that did the harming. But if we don't report it, we also run into the risk of that behavior continuing outside of the family. We don't know who,
Mm-hmm.
say it's an auntie that does this. We don't know who that auntie has access to. Like, do they spend time at a play centre? Do they, all of these types of things that we have to be really mindful of. So again, as adults, you have a little bit more autonomy around how you want to manage that information. But when it comes to a child, we also need to be thinking about other children in the person that hurt them's world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I just feel like too, making sure, like we had just said too, of like believing that child and making sure like they are separated from
Yeah.
that family member. Like
Yeah.
you believe them and you protect that child,
Yeah.
like in any sort of way. I just really feel like there needs to be distance, like that needs to be created, like firm boundaries with that too, just because that's so can be so uncomfortable. You don't want to re-traumatize the child by having to be by that. It just gets so tricky, I feel like,
Mm,
when it's within families,
yeah.
but it's so prevalent. Like
Yeah.
it's so prevalent. So like, yeah, learning how to navigate that is just so tricky.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really hard thing for a child as well, because we sort of teach them that these people love you, or these people are safe people, or we spend time with these people all the time. And for a child then to have an experience that's really awful or makes them feel yucky, or their tummy might start turning when that happens, and they think, oh, but my mum and dad love spending time with that person. Like they laugh and they have a good time, but then this person does this to me. It's so confusing. It's so
Mhm.
confusing for a child. So yeah, when we put in that part of it being 90% somebody known to the child, it adds a complex layer to it of how do I speak up against this person if it's somebody I love and somebody my family loves? But the right thing to do, yeah, believe the child, find the legal system or path that aligns with what you need in that moment, and then yes, definitely keep the distance. Never force the child to see that person. Yeah, keep them very separate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, what are some signs that children might be experiencing sexual abuse? Like if they aren't coming to you with the information, but like, are there specific signs that we can look out for, like behaviorally or emotionally, that they may be displaying that could be a little indicator if something is going on, but they're just not bringing it forward?
Yes, definitely. I always like to say with this though, these like behaviors or things that you might notice can be for a range of things. So never just assume that if this is happening, then they're being sexually abused.
Hmm.
But it can be an indicator. So probably the number one thing I see is isolation. So that child really isolating themselves from, maybe they don't want to play in the sports team anymore. Maybe when they come home from school, they're going straight to their room. Maybe they're not spending time with their friends anymore. They're just like really internal within themselves. Other
Hmm.
children, you might see like a real escalation in behavior. You might notice some real anger coming out, or there's this real deep sadness. So, just if you see any major emotional changes within your child that seem quite disproportionate to the situation, you might think, okay, actually, there's something sitting underneath that. Those would be my top two. Like, yeah, massive changes in behavior. isolating themselves, not wanting to be around a certain person, like say it was an uncle, and then you'd be like, oh, uncle's coming over, and you can see a reaction within them. That's like a good
Mm-hmm.
sign that that's not somebody they feel safe and comfortable around. Or maybe something's happening within a friendship and you say, oh, blah, blah is going to come over for a play date, and you notice them being like, oh, this child doesn't want to play with them or is keeping really distant. So if you see any changes within relationships, is really good to look out for. Um, in terms of like a grooming sense, though, if you were wanted to look out for signs of grooming, it would be an adult that's really investing a lot of time in your child. So, say it was a sports coach and they started spending way more time with your child and saying, oh, we're just going to actually do some one-on-one practice today after the other kids have gone. Like, I see real potential in them and I want to ensure that they're, I don't know, goal kicking like really improves or something like that. You're like, okay, that's an instant red flag. Like if an adult is spending one-on-one time or making situations where they can have one-on-one time with the child. If an adult starts to like shower your child in gifts or extra things, or oh, I'm just going to take them out for an ice cream, and you notice your child's coming home with different things, part of that grooming stage is that they find somebody that they believe is like targeting somebody that they believe that they can manipulate. And what they want to then do is start to build trust, not just with the child, but also trust with the parent. So in the sports
Mm-hmm.
coach, it's like, oh, this guy's so great. He's giving our child extra coaching. As a parent, you start to be like, okay, this is somebody that's good to have in our child's life. The child feels special. Like, oh my goodness, this coach is keeping me after. He sees potential in me. And then the gifts is another part of the trust, so that they start to say, oh, here, you can have this. They begin to create a relationship that's very isolated to those two people, and they start to build that relationship. And eventually, with grooming, it does get to the point of isolation. So you'll notice that person only spending time with your child. All of those things are good signs to be looking out for. They might be asking your child to keep secrets and things like that. All signs of the grooming process happening. And just while we're on that secrets part, I just want to
Mm-hmm.
pop a little bit in, is in
Yeah.
our home we have a no secrets policy, and this is something
Mm-hmm.
that I'm really, really passionate about because of the grooming process. That in order to build trust, somebody will say, oh, here, have a lolly, but don't tell mum. That person will then watch to see if my child tells me that they got given a lolly or not, and they'll go, okay, they complied. I can start to make it a bit bigger, and then it might become, don't tell mum we did this, don't tell mum. And to the point where then watching the child's not informing the parents, therefore they can keep continuing with that behavior. So instead
Right.
of secrets, we have surprises. And like, I'm really big for a
Mm-hmm.
surprise, a birthday surprise, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And my daughter knows that. And so she said to me, she came home from kindy one time and she said, oh, I've got a secret, da 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 da. I was like, oh, darling, we just do surprises in our house. And we talked about it. And then it was her brother's birthday, and she's like, oh, when I bought him, we went to the shop and she picked something she wanted. She said, oh, it's a secret. And I said, no, darling, it's a surprise. And this is a difference. So a secret's something nobody ever finds out, but a surprise is something that eventually everybody will find out. And so now surprise is a normal word in our house, where a secret doesn't happen. She whispered in my ear, Mum, I've got a surprise for you the other day. And I was like, oh, that's really
Oh,
cool. But it was
I
just like
love
something she
that.
wanted to tell me. And I was like, oh, that's so nice, because for so many people, it's so normal to say, I've got a secret for you. But actually,
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to be using that language with our children, because they can't differentiate between a good and a bad secret. Like, they don't know. They
Mm-hmm.
have really black and white thinking that, okay, if I can have a secret, that's fine. But if I can't have a secret, well, that makes it a lot easier to
Right.
know that they need to talk to me. If anybody ever said, let's keep a secret, she knows, oh, we don't have
Mm-hmm.
those in our house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much because I was talking to my mom about this episode and she was like, "Yeah, I always tell the kids like no secrets,
Yeah.
because I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm like, yeah, I feel like anytime an adult or a friend or someone is trying to say, don't tell your parents or this is a secret, that's like red flag, like there should be no secret. So I think that's something good to add into the conversations. Like, you can tell me anything. I'm not going to get mad. There's no secrets. If anyone tells you to keep a secret, you come and tell me,
Yeah.
like make it like fun. But I love the surprise thing. I think
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah. We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. And I think real quick too, I want to touch on sleepovers because I feel like as parents, like sleepovers are such a big thing, which I feel like that's where a lot of things can happen, like both with the parents or if there's older siblings in the house or whatever it may be. I just feel like a lot of abuse can happen in sleepovers and can bring up a lot of questions for parents, like especially around safety. So I'm just curious if you have any suggestions for parents considering having a sleepover, like what should they be looking out for before agreeing to their child going to one?
Yeah, such a good question. It's so on topic. I feel like it's just sort of everywhere at the moment. A lot of people reaching out to me around sleepovers. I've actually developed, it's just a free checklist, but I can pop that in the show notes as well that parents can read
Oh
through. And it's
yeah.
all the questions I recommend and like how to say no gracefully and all of that kind of stuff. So I can share
Oh,
that
I
with you if
love
you like.
that.
And
Yes, thank you.
so, my first thing is I suggest you need to have a very, very, very good relationship with the person, the host family where your child is staying. And in order to determine whether the relationship is a very good, safe relationship, would be that you felt comfortable to sit down and ask some really big questions. And if you don't feel safe I'll talk through the questions, but if you don't feel safe having those conversations or asking those questions, that's a really good sign that this relationship needs to be built a bit further before a sleepover.
Hmm.
So the questions that I would suggest asking is things like who's in the house? Is there an older brother or sister? Are they having friends over? Are auntie and uncle coming round for dinner? Like who will be in the house when my child is in the house? Who will be supervising my child? How does this look? So, are they allowed to play with doors shut or do doors have to be open? Are they playing in communal like lounge spaces or are they alone? I would be another big step is like how much body safety education does my child have? Like, do they know enough that if something was happening, they could say, oh, this doesn't feel right? Is your child old enough to go to the toilet on their own or get dressed on their own or have a shower or bath on their own? What are the sleeping arrangements like? This is probably a really big one, especially as children get older, but what are the rules around devices? Do
Hmm.
the children have access to devices? Are they on the internet? Are they in communal places? Are they in their bedrooms? Um, yeah, those are sort of my key ones. How the parents would deal with an emergency. Like if my child wants to connect with me, can they use a phone? How often can I talk to them? Yeah, but if you don't feel safe having those conversations, I feel like it's a good sign that that relationship just needs to be built a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think so too. Because I think, Yeah, it used to be just like, "Oh, yeah, go sleep." I feel like
Yeah.
sleepovers were just so willy-nilly,
Yeah.
just not much thought was given into it. It was just very innocent, very sweet, but, like, now we cannot be naive anymore. It's
No.
like we cannot be naive anymore, and we have to just question things, and, yeah, I think that's so important to have those kind of conversations with the parents, and then, like, are there other children that are also sleeping over? Like, all of that. Yeah, there's just so much that goes into it. I just as a parent, I don't know how I would navigate that. It almost feels better to just be like, "No sleepovers
Yeah.
ever," but, you
Yeah.
want your children to be able to have fun because sleepovers are so beautiful and there can be a
Yeah.
lot of joy in those, so
It's such
it's
a big, like, rite of passage of growing up, like, that,
yeah.
having independence from your parents is really important too, and having those social connections and a sense of belonging outside of your family, like, they are important, and I understand because there's a part of me that's like, "Oh, sleepovers, like, no way for my children," but I also know that that's not realistic, so how do I do it
Mhm,
in a safe way? Like, how do I allow them this part of their childhood that is safe? And maybe for the first little while, I just have friends stay over at our house until I become, comfortable with those next steps. But I think,
mhm.
it's very normal to feel that way as a parent as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I would love to see I feel like the checklist would be really supportive, so yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think just my last question that I wanted to ask was like, what is one thing that every parent could start doing today to help protect their child or children and build like a very strong foundation of trust, of safety, of communication? Like, yeah, what's one thing that they could really start implementing today to ensure that?
Yeah, such a good question. I could just go on and on and on. So, probably what I'm going to say is model consent to your child. And so that is, can mum have a hug? Can I wash your body? Would you like to give Nanny a hug, or would you like to give her a high five? Stopping tickling when they say stop tickling, or stop play fighting when they say stop. Giving them choice around how they dress their body, all of those types of things. Because not only are we saying to our child that before they touch somebody else's body, they need to get consent. And like for me, I've modeled that to my daughter so much now. But it's also saying that if somebody wants to touch her body, they need to ask like her mum does, And
Mhm,
so there's two parts to it, because not only do we want to keep our children safe, we want to ensure that they're safe with other children and being respectful of other people's boundaries and bodies. So I think modeling and asking questions before you touch your child's body is such a powerful tool, because then they learn at a foundational level that any form of contact requires permission or consent. And I noticed this, I heard my children playing the other day, and my daughter said to her little brother, he started like crying or pushing her away, and she was trying to hug him, and she said, "Oh, Baba, do you not like my hug?" And she's like, "That's okay, I'll stop now." And it was just exactly the words that she hears us say. And I thought, oh, she does know, like she has picked this up. And so for those parents, particularly who feel uncomfortable, like starting like big conversations and stuff, just start weaving it into your life, start using those words yourself, because your child will pick up on it and it will sort of sit there for them.
yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, it's just like I feel like just needing to start. There's going to be no perfect time. So just start weaving it in when you can, and yeah, moving through that discomfort if there is any discomfort coming up. Yeah. And I think too like what I feel, which this is down the road, I want to have another conversation around this, but I feel like we need to also be talking to children about sex in general. Like it just sex has become so taboo, so
Mhm.
shameful, so gross,
Mhm.
and it's like avoiding the conversation altogether. But like sex is such a natural part of life. It's beautiful. It's a natural part of life. We are like those desires that they're there for a reason. We're here to experience pleasure and all of it. But I think it's so taboo and so out of sight, out of mind that it is manifested in a really gross way of like that non-consent, and also just like feeling shameful and just like not talking about it at all. So I think too it's like this education around sex is so important too. Like
Yes.
those are conversations we have to have with the children. And it's
Yeah.
not, it can't just be another thing like out of sight, out of mind. It's like teaching them about their bodies too, in that sort of way too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I always say with that and anything to do with sex, your child will learn it from three places. One is peers, one is pornography, or one is parents. And you get to decide that. And so if you do not have these conversations with your child and teach them about sex and what is a healthy sexual relationship with others and with yourself, they are going to learn that from two places that you really don't want children to be learning about such an important part of who they are and their themselves as they grow up. And so if we do the foundations of body safety really right from a young age, then the talk about sex is so natural and so normal, and it just becomes like a really nice pathway up into that early sort of teenage years where actually I always could talk to my mum about my body and what felt right and what didn't feel right. So as I get older, that conversation shifts. But I know for me, like I want those conversations to be from my husband and I, not from what they see online or not from friends, because that's yeah, that sets our children up and their relationships up for I guess quite a scary future.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's just another part of kind of like moving through that discomfort and getting curious about the conversations that you had around sex with your parents and how that was, and if that wasn't there, okay, how can you hold space for that? But then also learn how to move through that discomfort and start just having those conversations. Even if you fumble over your words, even if it's uncomfortable, it's like, okay, I'm so deeply devoted to making this a healthy communication around sex because I want them to feel safe and comfortable in their bodies, to express sex in a positive, safe way, have a healthy relationship with sex. Like I think it's just been so normalized of like out of sight, out of mind. All it's just become so like just gross for lack of a better word. It's just so much has been done because we haven't had these conversations. So I just think having that foundation with body safety is so incredibly important to then just continue to navigate like feeling safe in your body. Okay, now you're probably going to start experiencing like different desires and pleasure and all of that kind of stuff, and that's normal. That's normal and that's beautiful, and we'll celebrate that, and we're going to help you navigate that in a healthy way, and so they feel safe, your kids feel safe talking to you about sex as well. Yeah, it's just I feel like it's so important, just like so important. Yeah. Yeah. Well, is there anything we missed? Anything that you want to talk about or any other advice that you have for parents before we end
No,
it?
I think that's everything. Yeah, just start as early as you can and have and talk about it as often as you can, and where possible, just make it as natural as you can.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yay. Well, where can people find you? I know you have Instagram. So you said you have a program too, if there's anything that you want to share.
Yeah. So I am on Instagram at the Safe Kids Project. And if you go on there, I have lots of free resources like body autonomy affirmation cards that you can read through with your kids. I can drop those in the show notes as well if you like, as well as book recommendations and things. And then I run a 6-week course for parents where they get to learn everything that I do with my children. And I'm there to hold your hand the whole way. We catch up every week and talk about body safety, talk about the course, so that you get to walk away feeling really empowered and confident to have these conversations and to make it natural and normal. I have lots of things in there so that when you learn the information, you can implement it straight away. And I give you activities and changing your language and your mindset and your behavior so that this can be accessible, that we can shift and change generational abuse, because I'm just so passionate about making safer communities for our kids.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. I love that. I think that's so huge too, like empowering parents. Cause
Mm.
again, like it's like murky waters. We don't know how to move through it. So it's like that empowerment, getting the tools, like learning how to have those conversations. Like that's so powerful. So thank you for doing all of that. Oh my gosh, just thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your devotion to this. Like, it is so deeply needed. Like, we have to protect the children, and it really starts with us, making these changes. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing. I can feel your passion for it. So just, yeah,
Thank
it has
you.
such a ripple,
Yeah.
such a ripple. So thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, and thank you for having me here and having this opportunity to talk to your audience and share this, really, really important topic.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We'll have all of your information in the show notes so people can find you. And yeah, thank you all so much for listening. And we'll talk to you next Wednesday. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.